What's the worst I hate to break it to you moment you had with someone? Story number 1. I had a guy working for me that was extremely nice, easy to get along with, and wildly inept. Not even like low effort but just, not capable of learning seemingly basic tasks. We tried everything. Coaching, giving him legitimate checklist instructions, having a team lead sit with him for a couple weeks to walk him through basics, everything. Everyone said the same thing. He just couldn't do the job. Everything he did had to be double-checked by somebody else, which meant that we might as well have somebody else do it. But everyone liked the guy, they thought he was easygoing and cool to be around, everything. But still he just straight up couldn't do that job. So I had to find another place for him in the company that would better match his skills. The option would be for him to either take the lower job with lower pay, or he would be fired, with severance. I was not looking forward to the conversation. I called him in for a one-to-one to break it to him, and the first thing he started with was, "Hey boss, before we start I just want to tell you that I really feel like I've been doing a great job here and I would like to talk about a raise." Yeah, that conversation was not a fun one. Story number 2. I had to tell my friend that the online girlfriend he'd been talking to for months was actually a scammer using stolen photos. He was planning to send her money to come visit, and breaking the news to him was one of the toughest conversations I've ever had. Story number 3, not me, but I went to visit my dad at his job and he has an employee there who was kind of bragging to his other co-workers about how well he has been doing at the job and thinking of asking for promotion. My dad later told me that he fired that guy later that day due to poor performance despite multiple attempts to help him, lol. Story number 4, I used to work in a customer care call center for a major telecommunications company. A woman called in one day to inquire about $299 charges on her bill from Lavalife. She kept pressing about the charges, what they were, and I had to explain to her that Lavalife is a dating service and that the charges were legitimate. If she didn't make them, did someone else live in her house who might have? There was only her husband, and I heard her go from, "but he would never," to "I have to go now," as it set in. That was almost 20 years ago now and I still feel awful about it. Story number 5, my best friend in high school was overweight and would sweat profusely. We would come in after lunch in Texas and he would smell awful. I think he would wear his clothes without washing them after sweating. We had English after and the AC sucked, so teacher put a fan in the window. He would sit in front of the fan and blow his funk over everyone. The class got together and voted that I should be the one to tell him. Well, I had to break it to him that for the last year he has smelled horribly. I felt pretty bad, but he never stunk again. Story number 6, there was a rule at my job where only one of these two supervisors could be off at a time. One of them loved to take a full week off work during holidays, to get more bang for his PTO buck. One year, he had Thanksgiving week off, but the other supervisor had family come to town that week on late notice. The other supervisor asked him to cancel just one of his days so she could spend the day with family. He declined, even after she basically begged him, and he even said he didn't have anything to do that day. She then proceeded to take PTO days every Wednesday of a holiday week for the next calendar year, effectively blocking him from taking his cheap weeks off. He told me that he thought it was funny because he knew she didn't have enough time to take all those vacation days off, and she'd eventually have to cancel some of them. I got to tell him, I hate to break it to you, but she only took 2 hours off each of those days. See, the rule didn't differentiate between a partial or whole day, so she only had to burn 24 or so hours to block him. He looked devastated. It was kind of petty on both of their parts, but I give her credit for being creative in her retribution and don't blame her a bit for what she did. Story number 7, I had an upper management type guy try to explain to me, in a very condescending way, how a specific device works and how to install it. All completely wrong. I wrote the manual for it, I own the patent, it's named after me. Story number 8, I came back from my first day of finals in my first semester of college to find 2 women in suits and a campus police officer waiting for me. The women were mental health counselors from the university. One of them tried to talk to me but started crying, the other one couldn't say anything either. It was finally the cop who told me that someone had broken into my mother's house that morning and murdered her, my mom. Story number 9, oof, definitely the time I had to tell a friend that the business opportunity he was so excited about was actually a pyramid scheme. He was so hyped, talking about how he was going to quit his job and be his own boss. I tried to ease into it, but there's really no soft way to say, hey man, you're about to lose a lot of money and ruin your friendships. Story number 10, my sister-in-law. My niece plays field hockey and I love her. She plays in 2 different leagues. Meaning it's 3 hours of field hockey games every Saturday and Sunday. My sale expected me and my husband to drive an hour one way both days to watch niece play and pay rapt attention the whole time. Did I mention the games are at 7 a.m.? We did this about once a month on either Saturday or Sunday, and I guess this wasn't enough for her. We had to tell her that we loved niece but we weren't going to be as involved as she was in the league. Story number 11, my sister and her husband had a newborn baby. 4 days old. My sister's husband turned to me and said, he'll sleep soon, right? Story number 12, when I got the call that my mom had passed, they wouldn't say that she had passed, or that she had died, they kept saying medical things like, she doesn't have a pulse, she is not breathing, etc. It took a long time to understand that they were saying she was gone, and that it was final. Story number 13, freshman year of college, a friend said that he was going to go barefoot as much as possible to toughen up his feet so that his future kids would be born with tough feet too. Had to explain to him why that wouldn't work and the basics of genetics. He didn't believe me and stuck with his theory. We have since lost touch, but I know he had a son a few years ago. I'll have to ask him if it worked out. Story number 14, lol, I had to tell this girl that my boyfriend she was crushing on was, well, my boyfriend. She kept talking about how cute he was, and I was like, I hate to break it to you, but he's taken by me. The awkward silence after that was priceless. Story number 15, I have 2. The first one was having to tell my father and my brother's girlfriend that my brother had been in a bad automobile accident, that my cousin who had been with him was dead, and my brother was in a coma in a hospital 3 hours away. The second one was when I had to tell my mother that my sister was sleeping with my mother's boyfriend. That was a tough one. And yes, I was 100% sure, because they did it in front of me.